We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Liberty Nation's editor-in-chief, Lisa K. Donner, and her significant other, longtime host of this here show, Liberty Nation's senior political analyst and husband of the aforementioned editor-in-chief, Mr. Tim Donner. Now, earlier in the show, we were talking about the biggest winners, those who advanced their case the most. But for every winner, there is, of course, a loser. So who lost out and who failed to make their mark in the very first of this year's GOP presidential primary debates? Thanks for being back. Team Lisa, why don't you kick us off? Who do you think failed to move the needle forward for their campaign?
Well, we haven't spoken at all about him, and I think he deserves just a smidgen of airtime, and that is Asa Hutchinson. You know, he came off...
That's what Fox thought last night as well, just a smidgen of airtime.
Yeah. He came off as so incredibly 20th century. I felt like I was looking at George H.W. Bush, the father.
He mentioned when I was in the Bush administration, I was thinking, oh my goodness, that is probably the worst thing you can say right now.
Well, I'm not sure. I think he's talking about the W administration, not the H.W., right, Tim?
It didn't seem like it.
Yes. It
right.
was a Bush 43 administration, although he presented, like Lisa said, as if he was right out of the 1980s, really.
Yeah.
Which is why she said he reminded him of George H.W. Bush. He's, I don't even know why he's running for president. I have no idea what he's got in mind, because he's not going to be picked for number 2, and he's got no independent support base. I don't know how he even qualified. Likewise, Doug Burgum, the North Dakota governor, I thought he came off as definitely not ready for prime time. He definitely had a bit of the deer in the headlights, and as good as Ramaswamy's closing statement was, in a sense, closing the deal, Doug Burgum's was a disaster. He was reading like it was from a script that he had decided beforehand, and then he couldn't even spit it out properly. So he was a big loser too, not that anybody much. But
still, what do you guys think about Christie? Because it got to the point where Fox was giving so much airtime to Christie. I was like, okay, I can't stand him anymore. I can't take this anymore. Please brush through this.
I have my thoughts on Chris Christie. Okay, so Chris Christie, he has this reputation as this effective attack dog. He has this reputation. I don't think that's deserved whatsoever.
I agree.
He clearly went there. He was building up what his performance was going to be, and he was going to prosecute Trump. Although I think Asa Hutchinson actually said the words that on the debate stage, I'm going to prosecute Trump. Which Asa Hutchinson just failed in every way imaginable on that stage. But Chris Christie, his attacks, they weren't biting. They weren't on point.
I don't think they were effective.
Well, that's the big crime, isn't it? They were neither effective nor witty. I mean, you can get away with, you don't have to have both, but you got to have at least one of those things, either effective or witty. And yeah, I think this is an entirely undeserved reputation that's been built up in part from within the Republican Party as well, because they have had their uses for Chris Christie, especially winning New Jersey. But
look, Chris Christie is a guy who's trying to remain relevant long past his expiration date. He was relevant when he was governor of New Jersey, but, he talks about Trump's conduct. But I think when people think of Christie, who are in the know, and they think of his conduct, they think about the infamous bridge closing, the George Washington Bridge going into New York. And that was a despicable act that the Republicans, basically said that's the way a Democratic mayor behaves. Also, Chris Christie didn't help himself when in 2012, down the stretch in what was considered a close race between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, he brought Obama into New Jersey and gave him a huge hug.
Oh, right.
And thanked him for what he had done for New Jersey right before the election. I mean, he could have.
You guys are summing this up really well, but let me just slip this in here. And I think you're both making the same point, and that is, and I know he wouldn't like this analogy, but he's got the Hillary Clinton problem. Chris Christie is not likable. He is very unlikable. And that was essentially the rap on Hillary Clinton. Nobody really liked her personality. And I think that's what you're saying about Christie. And I think that's true.
I think the problem is, too, he gets the reputation of being an effective debater. But in fact, what he is an attack dog. But that appears to be his purpose in running. In 2016, he was the most famous moment from 2016 was when he took down Marco Rubio. And the only thing they'll remember about Christie from this 2024 race is that he's in there specifically to attack Trump. He doesn't have his own agenda. He just wants to get in there and say, I have the guts to take on Donald Trump, but he doesn't offer anything else, honestly, to a Republican base.
Let's not spend any more time talking about Chris Christie.
You know what? I got to come in one more thing on Chris Christie here. From what Tim says there, he doesn't have anything to offer. You're absolutely right there. All he was offering was an attack on Donald Trump. He didn't offer substantive policies. He didn't, which is kind of the point of a GOP debate stage, right? To say, this is what I'm going to do as president. Well, if you're president, then you're still going to carry on attacking Donald Trump. What's the point? That's what the Democrats are for.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So, Lisa, who else in your estimation failed to move the needle?
Unfortunately, I think Scott did not move the needle at all for himself. He was just a little too type B, I guess I would say. But again, that could vault him into the perfect VP candidate. He's eminently likable. I mean, this guy's got the faith, that Pence talks about, but this guy, you get the sense that he really walks the walk and he doesn't just stand there and talk the talk, which I appreciate.
I don't think it's fair to say, though, that Mike Pence doesn't walk the walk.
No,
he wears it too much on his sleeve. I think is the problem. Tim Scott is, if anyone is auditioning for vice president, it's Tim Scott, because I think everybody knows he's not going to be the nominee. Yes, he's looking ahead to 2028 when, let's not forget, it's only a 4-year term for either Trump or Biden. And I was actually talking about this last night, Mark, that this might be the first time you have two candidates going against each other, neither of whom will be eligible to serve more than 4 years. So there is a serious setup for 2028. Tim Scott was doing that. But most of all, I think he's presenting himself as the perfect sort of foil within the Republican Party for Donald Trump. Take down the claims of racism. And, well, if he's such a racist, how come he's got a black guy running with him on the ticket, even though the left would almost predictably, as sure as the sun rising in the east, they'll call him an Uncle Tom, not in
or the black face of Trump's white supremacy.
Oh, yes, something like that. That's a good way of putting it.
Like the lawn jockey for the far right, which they used to say for Clarence Thomas. But I think his message is wrong for the time. Tim Scott. People are in a bubbly, optimistic, best days are ahead of us, greatness of America type of mood. There are some elections where that message is appropriate. This is not one of them. People in the Republican Party, conservatives, they want someone who's going to cut and slash and fight against the radicalism of the Democratic Party. That's what they want. They want a fighter. And
that's why they chose Donald Trump in 2016.
Precisely.
Because he wasn't going to take a licking. He was going to
keep on ticking.
Keep on ticking, right.
And while we go through other old adverts, we'll be right back after this short break with Tim and Lisa continuing the conversation. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech. at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are libertynation.com.